Hello, this is Blue Star, Defender of Equestria, and this is my next focus on video, Opaline in Chapter 4. If you have not seen Chapter 4, I really recommend that you do before you watch this video, particularly if you're a fan of Friendship is Magic, because there was definitely some big things here, so... And just a quick reminder, I really don't like spoilers because A, I'm a reactor, and B, I just don't like spoilers, so please don't post spoilers below. So it is time to look more into every pony's favorite supervillain, Opaline Arcana! In a lot of ways, Chapter 4 was really mostly about Opaline and Misty, and I really did like learning more about Opaline, because Opaline is such an interesting supervillain, because the long story short is that they've given her so many interesting motivations and character stuff going on that she's definitely more than just a supervillain that the main five are just going to defeat at some point. She's more like a character that the main five are going to have to somehow overcome at some point in the future. In Chapter 4, we actually got to learn a little bit more about those character things, like why is Opaline so like angry all the time? The first big thing is, oh my gosh, it's Opaline and Celestia and Luna for Friendship is Magic as fillies! The fact that they've made these characters as full 3D characters, I think basically means that, yeah, we're gonna be seeing these characters more at some point in the future, and I look forward to learning more, because there was actually some kind of interesting things even in this one little scene. We basically get to see, you know, in some ways, the relationship of Opaline and Celestia and Luna, and unfortunately it wasn't really that good because, well, Opaline was basically jealous of Celestia and Luna because they were the golden ponies. Every pony loved them because they had the whole sun and moon thing going on. But look, I'm a fire alicorn. I have all these amazing fire powers. Isn't that way cooler? Why doesn't any pony like me? Oh, it kind of caught me off guard when Opaline says things like, I'm an alicorn of fire, of power, of strength. But aren't all the alicorns like powerful and stuff? But this scene kind of puts that all in perspective, because I think the way that Opaline looks at this is that, sure, they control the sun and the moon, but I'm a fire alicorn. I've got all these amazing powers. I can light things on fire. Come on, that's way cooler than just moving the sun and the moon. This is kind of why you're not supposed to pick favorites with children, because it leads to these kinds of things. It's like, look how cool and amazing these ponies are. And yeah, that pony over there, yeah, she's okay. That is not a good thing, and sadly that's exactly what's happening here. Knowing Celestia and Luna, I don't think they did that, and if they did, I'm sure they didn't mean it that way, but then again, they were fillies, and as fillies, you do things as an adult that you may not do, so it'll be interesting to see, you know, exactly how did that really go down. But regardless, Opaline basically in some ways looks down on these ponies because they basically blew her off, so, unfortunately, all of that has led Opaline down this dark path. Not only can I take the dragon fire magic, but I can take the magic of all of the alicorns. As some pony pointed out, that maybe the reason why Opaline is all like, oh, Opaline, you're amazing. Oh, you get more glorious every day, is that no other pony believed in her, so she has to essentially pump herself up. So, no. Kind of reminds me of this scene from Opaline Star Racers where the race manager puts his hand over the microphone like this so the racers can't hear and then says, if I don't believe in them, no one will. And that's probably how Opaline feels, and she has to feel like she has to keep giving her all this positive reinforcement because no other pony apparently believed in her, so, aww. There's also a part of me that feels like maybe this isn't the full story, and there probably were alicorns that were supportive of Opaline. Opaline also says that I will fulfill my elemental duties. And that is sort of reaffirming something that was sort of established in Friendship is Magic, that each of the alicorns is assigned an element, whether it is the sun, the moon, love, friendship. That pony is essentially responsible for that element, and seeing that it basically grows and spreads throughout Equestria. Of course, Celestia and Luna were basically the princesses of the sun, the moon, day, and night, so they're basically in charge of the whole of Equestria during the day and the night, and she's just a fire alicorn. Of course, every pony has a role to play here, but from Opaline's perspective, it's like, hey, these two ponies, they basically rule Equestria during the day and the night, and I'm just a fire alicorn, so grr. So this basically shows Opaline's true motivation, that she basically wants to show that, yeah, these ponies are special and cool, but I'm a fire alicorn. I'm special and cool too. And I'm gonna prove it to you by stealing not only, you know, all the ponies' magic, but the alicorn's magic too. And I would prove that I deserve to be praised, admired, feared. I almost feel bad for Opaline because she feels like that the other alicorns basically ignored her and she has to prove how amazing and cool she is by stealing every everpony's magic, so, aww. I think in terms of Opaline's, like, character, the other interesting thing was that scene with Misty when she's basically ungrounding her. She's just so, like, vain. She doesn't even realize or maybe even notice or care that Misty already broke her spell. She doesn't actually have to release Misty. It kind of reminds me of this line from ODST. I think she's too busy to care. She's so preoccupied with herself and her own plans and her own thoughts and everything that she doesn't even care that Misty has broken her spell. The other is that she has a semi-motherly moment with Misty. I mean, it's more of an evil stepmom. I'm not really looking out for Misty's interest. I'm more looking into my own. But even so, oh, Misty, I'm so hard on you because I see so much of the young pony that I used to be. Strong, determined, destined for greatness, and, that doesn't come easy. She's actually being a little bit supportive here, but also kind of shows that thing that sometimes parents do, is that we want to raise our kids the way that we wanted to be raised. It is a question of how much does Opaline actually care about Misty? It's absolutely, she's a supervillain, she's got her own interests at heart, and if Misty, fell off a cliff or something, I'm sure she'd be like, oh, that clumsy oaf. Now I have to go find another minion. Ugh. But at the same time, she might be a little bit sad because, after all, she has raised her from, a young filly, so she must care about her a little bit. So this is why Opaline might be attempting to say that kind of thing to Misty, because after all, she did put a pretty harsh punishment on Misty. She just magically glued her hooves to the floor for the last 12 hours. You think about it, that's pretty awful. Ugh. She's claiming she's only doing it because, she actually does care about Misty, but she realizes that greatness doesn't come easily, so she has to push her really hard. There's kind of some truth to this, but obviously this is all motivated by what Opaline wants, and that in some ways you could argue that maybe Opaline is just trying to make herself feel better for being so rough on Misty. But I still find the scene in that moment kind of interesting because it does in that moment seem like she's trying to be almost a mother figure, which is another interesting thing about the alicorns, is that each of the alicorns in a lot of ways did fulfill a quote-unquote motherly role in some way. Like Celestia was not only the ruler of Equestria, she was also the mother figure and the mentor to the whole of Equestria, and particularly the main six, and especially to Twilight. Maybe this is part of the reason why Opaline took in Misty. It's like, oh look, here's a pony for me to guide and mentor to be the pony that I want them to be. So, ooh. Opaline is trying to mold Misty into the pony that she wasn't, but that she wanted to be. But at the same time, obviously, we know Opaline's a supervillain. We know she only has her own interests at heart. And we especially saw this during Missing the Mark, where there's times where it's like, you dare to challenge me? Of course not, Opaline. I was just saying that he's gonna be harmless in a minute. You don't have to throw him into the water. No, this dragon has caused me one too many headaches. Over into the water he goes. Yeah. You murdering monster. And I know that you're upset that, you lost to this dragon all this time, but did you really have to throw him to his doom? Of course, the answer to that is no, but being the supervillain that she is, it's like no one crosses me and lives to tell about it. Yeah. And I feel like that whole episode was almost that Sunset Shimmer, you have shown every pony what is in your hearts kind of moment, which I think was kind of the point of that episode. We see Misty going back between the main five and Opaline and back again several times, almost kind of evaluating, who do I want to side with? Who do I want to be friends with? And in this episode, Opaline totally shows her true colors and her true character. And it's not a pretty picture, and surprisingly, Misty's not too happy with this. Ugh. It's demonstrating the classic supervillain thing of, I only keep ponies around until they are no longer of any use to me. And after that, I don't really care what happens to them. So, to Opaline, this isn't a baby dragon. It's just a battery to be drained, and when it's completely drained, well, I'll just discard it and throw it out the window. It's no longer any use to me, I don't care what happens to it. Again, it's not a pretty picture, which is probably part of the reason why Misty, in the end, chooses the main five. And the other thing I kind of liked about that episode, and I thought was interesting, was that Opaline is just confidently and almost enthusiastically lying to Misty about getting her cutie bark. Oh, you're just moments away from getting your brand new cutie bark. Isn't that exciting? It would be if I didn't know she was lying. Again, she's a supervillain. She lies to every pony. She's probably been lying to Misty from probably the moment she's met her. But she's just so enthusiastically lying to Misty here. Getting a little bit off topic, but I think the short answer is that, yeah, in a lot of ways, this was about Misty deciding which is more important, being true to herself and getting her cutie bark. And ultimately, she decides that it's much more important to be true to herself and her friends, so roar! Opaline basically can't grant her a cutie bark, and she knows it. And I kind of like this little glance that Opaline gives when she's like saying this. Oh, I might actually have to try to grant, Misty her cutie bark. I think it could also be that, yeah, she's starting to think about Sparky and all the trouble that he's caused her, and it's like, alright, it's time to deal with him. Still, I feel like in that moment is like, there's that brief realization of, yeah, I can't actually grant her cutie mark. So, still, I'm surprised that Opaline is lying to her, especially since at this moment, she's gotten everything that she wants. In theory, she doesn't have to do anything for Misty. She could just, walk away and let Misty not have her cutie mark. But, again, there could be that thing of that maybe she actually does care about Misty a little bit. Or maybe she doesn't. I unfortunately had this thought, which is that Sparky's about to be thrown out the window, but now that Opaline has everything that she wants, and that Misty is essentially not really useful to her, maybe Misty's going out the window with him. Oh no! Maybe? But at the same time, maybe not. Because another interesting moment with Opaline in missing the mark was she's getting all powered up. It's like, power! Power! Yes! Oh wait. Misty's being tortured by the main five. I guess I gotta go help her. Because the interesting thing is, she didn't have to help Misty. She could just simply, continue to power up and, revel in the glory of being all powerful again. Ugh. I'm sure she'll be fine. I'm too busy powering up right now. Oh, no, she actually goes and helps her. And yeah, maybe one day this might actually be the end of Opaline. So maybe there could be hope for Opaline yet. But of course, being the amazing supervillain that she is, I don't think that's going to be likely, or at least not for now, and definitely is not going to come easily. But I'm going to be interested to see, what happens with that and see how the relationship between Misty and Opaline changes. Particularly what happens at the end of Chapter 4. She gets her cutie mark during this episode. Yay! It's only a matter of time until Opaline realizes that this cutie mark isn't drawn on or painted on, it's real. So, something's changed, and it's definitely not a good thing for me. So yeah, the instant that Opaline realizes that she has a real cutie mark, that's gonna be very bad news for Misty, because that means in theory that Opaline basically has no hold over her anymore, and that's not going to be good for Opaline, and it's definitely not going to be good for Misty, so that moment might be coming sooner rather than later. So overall, I really liked Opaline in Chapter 4. We got to see a little bit of her backstory, we got to learn a little bit more of what is driving Opaline, seeing her almost sort of like an Alicorn-like stepmom role, and it'll be interesting to see where she goes, and where the relationship between Misty and Opaline goes, and how it changes, or maybe how it doesn't change. But regardless, I really like Opaline as a character. I like her motivations. And overall, I think she's a great supervillain. I look forward to learning more about her. So, roar! So, I hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, thank you for commenting, liking, and subscribing. And until next time, this is Blue Star. Stay strong and pony on. Blue Star out.